Welcome to a terrible football show. I did the yell anyway. I know I said I wasn't going to, but here we are. Episode 31. I'm Alex Live Sparky. Having an incredible day today. Whatever day you're listening or watching this podcast. I got Shane here. Shane, how you doing? How you feeling, my friend?
Pretty good, man.
And then we have a new face.
Regular shows back on, man.
Dude, that's true. 2 weeks. 2 weeks and a terrible football show is back. And not only is it back, we're going live. Live shows with terrible football show here in a couple weeks. We also have a new face here, right below me, right here. His name is Ricky. How you doing, man? He was a guest on the last episode. Crushed it. Absolutely crushed it. The host of one of his own podcasts as well. Joining a terrible football show as a host. Ricky, how you doing, bro?
I will take football for 200, Alex.
Football for 200. Let's get it. Ricky, man, I can't appreciate you enough for joining the show. Dude, you brought the energy last episode. Shane can agree with it. Everyone can agree with it. You were the king of the last episode. Like, I didn't want to cut you off, but I had to. I had other people in waiting. I didn't want to cut you off, though. So I'm glad that you're joining the show. How you feeling, man?
Man, I'm feeling great. And it's like I said before, Tyler gave me a list that I could have used the entire show plus some for. So I just, yeah. But anyway, no, it was great. I'm glad to be on here. Glad to be on a terrible football show. Let's talk some sports.
Man, we're gonna have a great time. We're gonna have an absolutely phenomenal time. So, if you could, first and foremost, give a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, be a friend, tell a friend, and of course, go check out our website, sparky3.com. You can sign up for free or sign up for $5 a month, totally up to you. We definitely appreciate that support. And also, shout out, it's on the screen. Hey, check out some Rogue Energy, the referral link down below. You can use promo code SPARKY3 for 10% off, or promo code RazorE3 for 10% off as well. Pick up some merch, sparky3shop.com. Oh, and also, hey, shout out to this. Got a couple new partnerships and sponsors to chat about. Not with Terrible Football Show, but hey, it helps the whole brand, and that's what matters. Check out Swift Grips, link down in the description below. Use promo code GameAesthetic for 10% off. Get the best grips in the game. If you got sweaty hands like me, you know you don't want your hands slipping all over the controller. Get some grips, protect your sticks, all right? And then also use the referral link down below for Red Dragon. Get a new mouse, keyboard, speakers, anything of the sort. Hey, I've been using Red Dragon for literally years. Shane can vouch for me. He's seen my Red Dragon stuff. He's seen the setup. I love Red Dragon. I'm so proud to be partnered with them. Use promo code GameAesthetic for 10% off over at Red Dragon as well. And of course, the most important one, honest to God, most important one, join the Discord, because when it comes to these live shows that we're doing here with the Terrible Football Show, we'll be taking guest callers, and the Discord is the place to join. We got a channel set up for the guest queue. We'll pull you up into the show. It's your chance to shine. Come in, kill it, or don't kill it and crush it. We'll make fun of you as we kick you out. One of the two. I don't know. But either way, definitely join the Discord. I'm actually going to be setting up some guidelines for the calls and stuff sometime here soon, so keep an eye out for that. But I think that's it. I think that's all the plugs. Like I already said, subscribe to the channel, be a friend, tell a friend. I'll go ahead and start turning down the music now, and we'll kind of jump into some stuff. But before we actually jump into stuff, this is just who I am as a person. I feel like we always have to address in-house stuff when it needs to be addressed. That's just how I am. I want the listeners to be in the know, and what's going on to as much as they need to know. So Tyler will unfortunately no longer be with the Terrible Football Show, at least for now. I mean, I definitely see a route down the line where he could rejoin. I definitely see that, and I definitely see him coming on as a guest at some point. I definitely think that's 100% possible. We wish him all the best. Appreciate the shit for everything he's done. Shout out to you, Tyler. Hey, you're the man. Appreciate all the work that you've done here for a Terrible Football Show and help building it to what it is. Appreciate you and love you. It was his call. He wanted to step back, step away, and like I said, if things work out on both ends where he can rejoin later, cool. If it doesn't, hey, obviously wish him all the well. Thank you for the support, because I know he'll keep listening to us, keep supporting us, supporting the brand. He's a great dude, so definitely appreciate everything that he's done up to this point. But with that said, let's talk some football. So the big thing that we're going to be chatting about today, boys, is we're going to be chatting about the college football realignment, the massive one that's happening before our very eyes, and there's so many other moves that could happen. That's the main topic for today. But before we get into that, let's do a couple little quick hits that's happening on the pro side of things. So first and foremost, Shane, how you feeling? You lost out on Baker there, bud. How do you feel knowing that Seattle is in full tank mode? Because they are in full tank mode.
That's why I'm not wearing Seattle stuff right now. I'm just kidding. No, I mean, do I think it's the right time to rebuild? No. I mean, we got Pete Carroll that's dust when it comes to age right now. So, I mean, it is what it is. He'll, honestly, I see the next 4 years going badly, and then Pete Carroll will just kind of ride off into the sunset as retirement, and then we'll see what goes from there. But as far as Baker, I think he wouldn't have helped Seattle extensively, but I think he could have been a great 2-year bridge quarterback for them to get somebody in there, this offseason or this upcoming offseason, whether it be through the draft, whether it's like Bryce Young or somebody like that, because we all know Seattle's going to be a bottom 3 team.
Oh yeah, dude.
They're going to take a quarterback top 3.
Dude, they're going for that number
Even
1 pick. You can't convince me otherwise.
Oh, for sure. And even then, like, even though I still don't think any quarterback's first round worthy, up to this moment, yes, we haven't seen anybody play. Of course, so the season hasn't started yet, but as far as last year, I still don't think any quarterback's first round worthy in this upcoming draft.
That's a hot take.
Yeah, I mean that's just my opinion.
You don't think
Hot
Bryce?
take.
You don't think Bryce Young is going to be good enough to be a first-round pick? Are you out of your mind, Shane?
Nope.
He is going to be the best thing that's going to be coming out of this next year's draft. Bryce Young's going to be the dude, and
Hey, don't sleep on TVD. Don't sleep on my boy if he comes out. I hope he doesn't.
I think there will be quarterbacks that will be taken high in the draft. Don't get me wrong; they will end up technically being first round talent. Do I think that it's going to equivalent to what their talent is right now? No, because right now with Bryce Young, it's the same thing with every Alabama quarterback, right? It's yes, you're playing really well. You look like a great quarterback, but you have the best of the best talent around you. What can you do with less, right? So as far as like a KJ Jefferson or the quarterback that Oklahoma got from USF or
Dylan
UCF
Gabriel.
or
Dylan Gabriel's a
yeah,
beast. He's a
yeah,
lefty
like
though, and
those
that's always going to
quarterbacks, I'm more excited
scare
for
teams.
those quarterbacks because they've proven they can put up the numbers just like Bryce Young with less talent. Because what is Bryce Young going to be able to do if he goes to a Seattle or a team that's in the bottom 5 of the league next year that doesn't have the talent that he's used to of comparison of Alabama?
I mean, we've
That's
seen
what I'm
Tua.
kind of going off right now, and that's why I don't think there's any other quarterbacks that's really first round worthy. Now again, things can change throughout the season. If he goes out and has a 50 touchdown year, throws for 5,000 yards and 10 interceptions, regardless of what that is, yeah, that'll definitely be first round talent worthy because that's fucking insane numbers. But we're gonna have to wait and see.
I will say, okay, I can kind of pick up what you're putting down in some capacities of like there. Look, let me stress this. There's going to be a lot of first round quarterbacks next year. All right. Like I'm actually thinking there's going to be at least 5 quarterbacks going in the first round and potentially 3 of them going in the top 10. There's going to be a lot of quarterback movement, a lot more than obviously it was this year. But I can see what you're saying in some capacity of where they're going to go first, but like, are they going to pan out to be that first? You know what I mean? Like, on paper, they have all the talent in the world. They do. I mean, we've seen that time and time again of guys come in and have all the talent in the world, be that first round talent, and then just not work out. So, if referring to that, I can definitely see what you mean. I can definitely pick up what you're putting down, and we'll just have to see.
I mean, by the numbers, these guys are first round talents.
Yep.
Right. By the numbers, the top 5, 6 quarterbacks in college football right now. Yes, by numbers, they're first round talents. But how is the basis of their quarterback skills, right? Because when you go into the NFL Combine and things like that, they break you down. I mean, it goes from hand size to fundamentals to how you're coming off your like your waist. Like, are you properly distributing your weight when you're releasing the ball? Are you releasing at the right point? Like all of these little bitty fundamental things come into handy. And at a quarterback that at the time is going to get drafted 20, 21, 22 years old, it's very hard to change those fundamentals to the proper fundamentals when you're so used to throwing the ball at the same time every single time, especially when he's been doing it already for 20 years.
Yeah.
So
And in
I'll
some
go ahead
cases, if
and-
it works, it works. I mean, look at Philip Rivers and his weird release that he does. I can't throw like Philip Rivers. He throws weird. Anyway, what were you going to say, Ricky?
No, I was just going to say, well, it also depends on who's actually going to need quarterbacks next year. I mean, if you look at it if you just look at it from the standpoint of this past season, all right. So Tom Brady, no one knows what Tom Brady's going to do now because he retired, but he's coming out of retirement. He's probably going to pull another Brett Favre. Who knows? But you're going to have somebody that's going to back him up. Somebody's going to have to bring him up because if you don't get a quarterback early, who's going to replace this guy? I know there's a ton of quarterbacks around the league, but if you think about it, Shane, besides Seattle, maybe I'm trying to think of another team. Maybe Houston.
I
There's
think
really
Houston's getting one.
a lot of teams are really set at their quarterback position right now. So if I'm a Seattle, or even if I'm Tampa, or if I'm Indianapolis, because Indianapolis is probably going to need a quarterback. If I get Bryce Young or any of these young talents that are coming up, I'm taking them. I don't care if you have to develop them, sort of like how Jordan Love's being developed with Green Bay. The reason they took Jordan Love was because of this situation. They knew Aaron Rodgers' contract was going to come up. They did not know what he was going to do, and ultimately he stayed with Green Bay, which was a shock to me. I thought he was going to sell for Denver before Russell Wilson did.
Yeah, same. Yeah, no,
See,
and I will
but
say
I can.
we've chatted about this before because of how things have played out. Where he came off one of his worst seasons. They draft Jordan, and then he has back-to-back MVPs, and now he's got a contract extension. We've chatted about this on this show before. Jordan Love is looking like one of the worst draft picks the Packers could have ever made. Like, I mean, legit. It was a waste of a first-round draft pick.
I mean, I agree, and that along with what Ricky says, I think even backs up what I said, right? With not very many teams necessarily wanting a quarterback right now because they either recently drafted one or recently traded for one, that except for teams like he said, like Indianapolis, Seattle, maybe even Denver may even be looking into one because Russell Wilson, we don't know what he's gonna look like. Last year wasn't his best year. He still looked good, but he's also getting up there in age. So they may be looking for a quarterback, hopefully not too early. But even then, why waste a first round quarterback when you know that he's going to be sitting on the bench for 2, 3 years? Especially since not a lot of people are wanting a quarterback right now, you very well could have that quarterback slide into the second, third round and get defensive or an offensive lineman or a skill position that will help your team right now.
And the reason is, Shane, is so that way that quarterback is ready to take over. Because we're talking about quarterbacks. You got to think, guys, we're about to hit this era where all the quarterbacks we've watched growing up as kids are all going to be gone. Think about it. Drew Brees is gone already. Tom Brady's going to be gone before too long. Big Ben, gone. Aaron Rodgers, he might play out his contract this side. He's done. We're at this era now of younger quarterbacks that are going to have to take over in the league. Who else is going to take over? Nobody. You've got to develop these guys. That's why I disagree with you to a certain extent, Shane. Is like I said, if I don't care who it is. If I get a chance to get Bryce Young and I'm prepared for my future, if I'm Jerry Jones and I have a chance to get Bryce Young, you think I'm gonna take him to back up Dak Prescott? Absolutely, because he's gonna prepare for the future.
Relax.
I
Relax.
think right now we're kind of arguing different sides of the same disagreement here, right? I'm not saying that not to take a quarterback. I'm just saying don't take a quarterback that may not be necessarily valued at first round pick to waste that pick there when you can very well get better value at him in a second and third round. Still have him for 2, 3 years, developed him, but yet still be able to get a player to help your team in the first round, like much like this year, like an agent Hutchinson or Trayvon Walker or Sauce Gardner or somebody like that. Get them then, and then that first round quarterback that you thought he's a first round could very well fall to the second, third, fourth round because not very many people need him. So why not do the smart move? Grab him then. You still have him 3, 4 years to develop, and you're not paying him as much money, and everything just on the bright side. It helps him because he's drafted, helps your team because you're not spending so much money on a quarterback on a first round, and you're getting a position or player, whether it be offense, defensive line, skill position, or whatever, that's going to help you right then at that moment.
I will say, like this past year, that as we saw, of course, I mean, there was potentially like 3 or 4 quarterbacks going in the first, and there was one, and the next one drafted like third round, whatever. This past year was the year to do that. I feel like for this upcoming season, will not happen. Because like I look around the league and I look at like the Giants. I personally don't think Danny Dimes is the guy. Flat out, don't think it. Even with the new regime, I don't think Danny Dimes is the guy. I think so. New York Giants was going to probably look at a quarterback. I think Washington will look at a quarterback. I think Houston will look at a quarterback. Personally, if Davis Mills plays okay again, then we'll see. But that's another one. Tampa, I think, will look at a quarterback. It wouldn't surprise me if New Orleans looked at a quarterback. And then, to kind of rope it back to, where we even started with all this, I think Carolina's going to look for a quarterback, because I think this mesh combo of Baker and Sam, I think it's going to result in failure for this year. Matt Rule to me is one of the coaches on the hot seat. Hey, shout out to my coaches on the hot seat video. You should go watch that. He was number 2 for me on coaches that are on the hot seat. I see no chance he's making out of this year. I think this year is going to be a lot of drama over in Carolina, because you traded for Baker, which is a very clear sign that he's going to probably be your starter. He took a pay cut, getting paid like $9.5 million. Meanwhile, you took up the 5th-year option for Sam Darnold, paying him $19 million to be a backup. Like, Carolina is going to be a messy year this year at the quarterback position. And when it comes into next year, even though this Baker thing happened, I think Baker could play pretty okay for the Carolina. I mean, it definitely help if C-Mac didn't get hurt all the time. We'll see if he plays more than 3 snaps. And if that ends up happening, Baker could have a decent year, but I still don't think Carolina is going to be set with Baker. They're definitely not set with Sam, or they wouldn't have traded for Baker in the first place. I think they're both not going to be a Carolina Panther come next year, and you'll see Carolina probably drafting pretty high. That's what I think is going to. I think you're going to see a lot of teams be very aggressive this next draft, but ultimately it's going to come down to see how everyone plays this upcoming college season. Because like you have Bryce Young, you have C.J. Stroud, you have Tyler Van Dyke, you have Will Levis. There was a couple more guys that I'm drawing a blank right now. Sam Hartman, I think, is one that's being chatted about. He's more probably 2nd or 3rd rounder, though. Brennan Armstrong, more probably 2nd or 3rd rounder as well. But, I mean, you got a lot of talent here in the first half of the draft, where for this past draft, it was like, you got Kenny Pickett. I mean, you could reach for Malik. You could reach for Matt Corral. You could reach for Desmond Ridder. Next year it's like, I mean, technically all these guys are going to be kind of a reach for one reason or another, but I think they're going to be more solidified picks than it is this past draft. So I expect a lot of teams to be very aggressive. Detroit throw their name into the mix. If Jared Goff stinks it up, definitely would throw their name into the mix for sure. Drawing a blank on who else could be in that mix.
Washington could be in the mix,
yeah,
depending on what his face does.
I think they'll be in the mix. I don't think Carson's going to do that great for him.
But also, I mean, I agree. I think what you're seeing with this class of quarterbacks, most of them are upperclassmen. Most of them are going to be your junior red shirts, your senior red shirts, your seniors, your super seniors, or COVID seniors, to where they've been there 5, 6, 7 years. It's going to be a lot of veteran guys, to where it can possibly kind of be responsible, because they're going to have the football knowledge to carry that quarterback position in the NFL. But as far as skill wise, it is better than last year, but I just don't know how much better. That's the real question for me.
And Alex, just one question: it's when Jared Goff screws up in Detroit,
not if. Okay, all right, yeah, fair. That's fair. That's fair. But I like that Detroit team, though. I ain't gonna lie, I do like that Detroit team.
But as far as, they've got a great team. That team could be contending if that quarterback position gets figured out, in my opinion. But anyways, as far as Baker to Carolina, I agree. I think you can't make that move and not start Baker at least after week 2 or 3, especially if Sam Darnold's not showing anything. I don't think Baker will be starter week 1. I think it's going to be way too much emotion to plug him in week 1 against this previous team that didn't want to do it.
He's going to be a starter week 1. Come on now.
I think Sam Darnold will be the starter. Will Baker Mayfield come into the game at some point? Who knows? But I think at some point you do have to start Baker, because you can't make that trade and not start him at some point in the year. But I do agree. I think within the next year or two, neither of those quarterbacks will be playing for Carolina.
I say screw that. Start Baker Mayfield, let them throw all over that crappy Cleveland Browns defense.
Week 1, maybe.
Let them get a little bit of revenge on it.
Yeah, week 1.
I'm all for getting revenge. Then start Sam Darnold in week 2.
Hey, listen. I'm hammering the Carolina Panthers week 1. Whatever the money line is, hammer it. Carolina Panthers are going to take out the Cleveland Browns. Let's hammer that shit down. All right, let's hop over to the next thing. NFL Sunday Ticket, been trapped behind DirecTV for many, many, many years now, which is blown for multiple reasons. The man himself, Roger Goodell, finally confirmed that, hey, we're breaking off from DirecTV as of this upcoming, next season. Yeah, next season. So this is the last year of it being trapped on DirecTV. The announcement for where it's going to a streaming platform this year will be announced this fall. Right now, it's looking like it's going to be Apple. I think it's going to be Apple, and it's going to be a very large dollar amount for it to be part of Apple TV, which Apple just recently, I can't remember, maybe you guys will remember, I can't remember if it was MLS or MLB, but Apple just dropped the bag in one of their laps.
I think it's MLB
Okay.
because I have Apple TV myself. I'm wanting to say it was MLB.
Okay,
but
yeah.
I think this is a terrific
I'm
move
pumped. I'm
on the
so
part
pumped.
of the NFL.
So pumped.
The reason I say this, guys, is because DirecTV is yesterday's news.
Yeah.
These streaming services,
The future.
of course, you can all thank Netflix, by the way, because I think Netflix was one of the first ones to actually start this streaming crap. And then all of a sudden, all these networks are like, you know what? We could do streaming. Let's start up our own streaming.
Yep.
And then here comes some other ones. I think there's Hulu, there's Disney, there's Apple, there's all kinds of streaming. There's even Paramount, and Paramount deals with CBS, and CBS has their own, which is amazing. Peacock deals with NBC,
Yep.
which is where the WWE is part of, which,
Yep.
I'm just going to throw that to the side. But yeah, this is a genius part because not only will you be able to get a subscription through it, it's probably going to be a lot cheaper than what it would be as going through DirecTV, because
Right.
the fees for DirecTV were just outrageous
True.
when it came to streaming the NFL.
Yep. And getting a Sunday ticket with DirecTV without getting DirecTV is a very roundabout and niche way. The only way for you to get Sunday ticket and not have DirecTV is you have to live somewhere where you can't get DirecTV. So it specifically names like college dorms, for example. In those niche situations, they will allow you to just have Sunday ticket, and that's it. But other than that, you had to have DirecTV, which is, and it's a killer because it's a contract. I mean, you're stuck with them for 2 or 3 years, and if you want to quit it, you're going to have to pay out the contract. The only way to not have a contract is if you have DirecTV Stream. That's the only way. That's just a month-to-month thing. But even with that, I don't think you can have Sunday ticket with that. So this is a huge move because they're looking around the room, obviously.
Coming from a person that sells it, you can.
What, Sunday ticket?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the only way that I remember is that it needs you cannot, you have to live in a location.
It's still DirecTV.
Oh, you're talking about DirecTV Stream.
Correct.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
Okay. So you can have DirecTV Stream and Sunday ticket. All right, cool. The bottom line is you can't get Sunday ticket without DirecTV. That's how it's been up till now. Which that's been the kind of the killer with things. And NFLs, they're looking around the room and they're seeing where everyone else is making all this huge amounts of money. And that's the age that we're in, where they look where it's like, why do we need you? Because Ricky, what you're saying about, DirecTV being yesterday's news, let me indulge myself a bit and talk a little bit about video games. It's the same thing with E3. E3 is like the yearly thing where it's like tons of awesome news. It was the hype moment every year for all gamers. But like over the past few years, we've seen E3 decline and we've seen huge publishers back out of E3. Like Sony, for example, because Sony hasn't been there since like 2018. And the reason why? Sony knows that at this day and age, they can just go do their own presentation, the Sony State of Play, and it's perfectly fine and it works. And Nintendo was the same way this past year where Nintendo wasn't involved with Summer Game Fest. They did their own thing because they don't need you. They don't need Summer Game. They don't need E3. And it's the same thing here. NFL doesn't need DirecTV. DirecTV needs NFL. So, like, this is a big thing for the NFL, and I'm here for it. Wherever it's going, immediately, my ass is signing up for it. I'm pumped. This is massive, because fuck DirecTV. I don't want that shit anymore. I don't have it, but I don't ever want it again.
No offense to Shane, who has to sell it.
Yeah. Sorry, it sucks.
I've had way too. When of course, DirecTV is owned by AT&T now, but when they were separate from AT&T, I had so many problems with DirecTV when I had them. It was not even funny.
Yeah, no, it's a pain, and I'm pumped. I'm pumped to find out where they're going to go. Like I said, it's looking like Apple, which I've wanted Apple TV for a little bit anyway. There's some shows and movies on there I want to watch. So, I mean, hey, I'm here for it. Let's get it. I will sign up to Apple TV immediately. I want that Sunday ticket.
DirecTV Stream is actually really good.
Is
DirecTV Satellite, I always try to push away from that because of the contract.
It's contract. It's old. No one. Yeah, DirecTV Stream doesn't actually look that bad in terms of like pricing structure and just like, hey, you can cancel it like any other subscription. But in terms of like I said, the NFL, they don't need DirecTV anymore. They're ready to spread their wings. They can make so much more money elsewhere, and they will. Let's see. The only other thing I want to shout out NFL wise, just because like we're a terrible show, I'd feel ashamed of myself if I didn't shout this out. Shout out to Zach Wilson, man. That dude's a dog. Like, shout out to Zach Wilson, dude. This guy, hammer the Jets to win the AFC East. I'm saying it now. Zach Wilson's got the it factor.
Must be.
The Jets are about to go on a run.
AFC East.
They're about to win the AFC
East.
Yep.
If they win the AFC East, my Cowboys are going to win the Super Bowl. Just saying.
And also, I did hear rumors if the Jets win the AFC East, they're going to be renaming to the Cougars.
Oh man, let's go! I'm buying merch immediately. I'm gonna need another logo over here, over there. Yeah, cameras are hard. Over there, I'm gonna need another logo if that happens. Call me a Jets fan. Yeah, call me a Jets fan. Also, shout out to the fact that I've officially adopted another team. I know I've got teams for days. Look, man, I am a sucker for some excellent PR. And that's what the Chargers are all about, is excellent PR. And look, man, that anime schedule reveal murdered me, took me off the planet. Like, it was already good. It was like week 1. All right, solid stuff. This is already amazing. But then when they got to week 3 and it was the Jags and it was Urban Meyer at his bar, I lost my shit. And I'm like, that's it. I'm buying Charger merch. Chargers are my number 3 team. Let's get it, baby. All right, let's jump over and let's talk college now. We've rambled on long enough. All right, so, boys, we are watching an NCAA football 2014, 13, 12, 11. We're watching an in-video game conference realignment IRL. I mean, that's what we're watching now. We're at the point in the offseason, right, in our dynasty right now. It's just like, hey, guys, do we want to switch up the conferences? It's like, yeah, sure, let's do it. That's what we are witnessing right now. I mean, we've already saw a lot of moves last year with mostly like group of 5, a lot of group of 5 moves that were confirmed end of last year. Sun Belt getting a lot. Conference USA, they're dead. I mean, in my opinion, they're dead. You know, American losing some teams. Like, I mean, we're seeing a lot of movement happen on Group of 5. Then, of course, we had the big news with Oklahoma and Texas joining the SEC, that kicking off in 2025. And now the news that happened within the past couple of weeks that while we were on a break is USC and UCLA joining the Big Ten, and that beginning in 2024. You know, of course, we already knew about the Big 12 as well. BYU, UCF, Cincinnati, and Houston joining next year. And then with Sun Belt, like I already mentioned, they're getting like Marshall, Southern Miss, James Madison, Old Dominion. That's beginning play this year. And the American are getting UAB, FAU, Charlotte, North Texas, Rice, and University of Texas San Antonio, all in 2023. So, I mean, we are watching like a video game style realignment before our very eyes. You know, how are you guys feeling about like the most recent move? Because this was big. You know, like USC and UCLA leaving the Pac-12 to join the Big Ten. That was a massive bomb drop in the news. How are you guys feeling about it?
Shane, I'll let you tackle this one first.
As far as the most recent moves on like the American Conference, the Sun Belt, man, honestly, I see in the very near future, like I want to say near, within the next 10 years, it very well is going to be. It's not going to be a Power 5 conference anymore. We're going to have 4 major conferences, and every team's going to be in it, and it's going to be divided up into pods. So, and they're going to be renaming. I don't think it's going to be. I think it'll kind of be more of an NFL type thing, where it's going to be not necessarily SEC and Big 10 and Big 12 or anything like that. It's going to be, you know, they're probably going to name it to like the, you know, Southeast Conference and West Conference. It's just going to be strictly depicted on regions, and then it's going to divide the United States into 4 brackets, and every team that falls in those brackets is going to be in that conference.
And you're saying at some point in time, like in X amount of years, that's what you're thinking.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about you, Ricky?
So, I don't know what word to describe these entire moves. Asinine could be one of them. I think this is the dumbest thing I think I've ever seen in my entire life. Some of the smaller schools, I understand why the smaller schools move conferences.
Yep.
They move conferences to get better. They also move conferences to get better revenue, things of that nature. Some of these schools, like you mentioned, some of the schools that are going to the Sun Belt, like Marshall.
Hey, Sun Belt's getting packed, Bubba. Like, let's go.
The Sun Belt, I understand that, because the Sun Belt, they have an agenda. Yeah. And I also have a little bit of a story to go along with the Sun Belt, but that's for a little bit later. I understand some of the smaller schools. I get that. I have no problem with that. I thought it was dumb that the SEC got Texas and Oklahoma because I just think it's dumb. They don't need Texas and Oklahoma because they're still the superior brand. You could take Texas and Oklahoma out of the SEC right now, and the SEC is still going to be the top-notch conference of the entire country. But the fact now you have two schools in California going to the Big Ten, the closest school that I can think of between
Iowa?
Los Angeles and any school in the Big Ten is over 2,000 miles away.
Yep.
The reason we have conferences to begin with is it's not because of competition. It's because of the geographical range where it makes the most sense. You had the Pac-12, which is basically all the schools out in the West. You had the Big Ten, which is everybody up north of Missouri and up north of Tennessee and Kentucky in that entire area. You have the Atlantic Coastal Conference because, hey, newsflash, most of them those states, if not all of them, are along the Atlantic coast. And then, of course, you have the SEC, and then you have the Big 12. You have all these schools that are combined. They do this not for competition. They do this to break down the competition. So that way, in the postseason, you have the best tournaments from all these different areas. They get to go to these special places and play in these special games, like the Rose Bowl, for example. The Rose Bowl it's the winner of the Pac-12 and the winner of the Big Ten, unless one of them or both, however it works, is in the college football playoff. Now we're going to get to see that just about every year because UCLA and USC, who are traditionally, USC is more traditional in the Rose Bowl than what UCLA is, and USC, even though they haven't been worth a crap here lately, you don't get these special games anymore. They're not going to be special anymore because they're going to be playing each other every year, if not every other year. It's bogus in my opinion because it's like I said, you're literally taking away the biggest thing of college football. You're basically taking debate away of who's going to be the toughest conference, who's going to be the weakest conference. You're taking all of that away because everything is going to be combined up now. And like Shane said, it's only going to be about 4 conferences now. And there's not going to be a Power 3 conference. It's going to be a Power 2 conference, most likely between the Big Ten and the SEC, which, like I said, you could still take you could take Texas, Oklahoma. You could put them in the Big Ten for all I care, and the SEC is still going to be the toughest conference. The entire issue with this entire point has to deal with one thing and one thing only, and that is money, and that's it. Take the academics away. This new NIL deal that's coming in, you're putting more and more money into college football than what you ever have. It's ridiculous. It's dumb. They should have just left it alone. I understand the smaller schools. I'm okay with the smaller schools. I'm not okay with Texas and Oklahoma going to the SEC. I for sure as hell ain't okay with USC and UCLA having to travel their kids 2,000 miles away to play a football game or take a volleyball game, for example. A volleyball game goes 5 sets at most. You have to win the best 3 out of 5. Imagine going to traveling over 2,000 miles away just to play one volleyball match. It makes no sense whatsoever, other than the fact it has to deal with money, and that's it. It's a money grabber. That's it, and like I said though, it's asinine. It's dumb.
I mean, it is 100% a money grab because, like, these numbers I'm gonna throw out there could be very inaccurate, but I want to say this is what I remember seeing. So, like USC and like UCLA, for example, they would make like normally like 30 mil, being with the Pac-12. Meanwhile, let's flip the script. Let's look at the Big Ten. Let's look at 2 of the shitty teams in the Big Ten. Purdue and Northwestern would make like 60 mil being over there. So it's a money grab. And just on a little side tangent here, because I don't know if it's confirmed across the board or not. I would assume it is, but with the let's say the volleyball thing, like the other sports that don't make as much money, those could actually still play in a different conference, and this be pretty much a football related move because it's kind of like Notre Dame, like they're currently independent in football, but then they're affiliated with other conferences. Hawaii, for example, Hawaii is in the Mountain West in football, but in pretty much every other piece of athletics, they're part of a completely different conference. So, I mean, that's a possibility. We don't know. I don't think it was confirmed. But no, this is just a money grab at the end of the day. And we're going to continue to see this happen because of money. Because, like, with all this happening, immediately following Oregon and Washington, who gave you the audacity to think that you're worth the shit to try to get out of there? But Oregon and Washington stepped up. Look,
Washington is one of 2 Pac-12 teams that has been in the playoff.
They haven't been in the playoff, have they?
Yes, they
Yeah,
have.
but-
They lost to Alabama the very first year. Is it no?
Did
It was
they?
the second year they
I
had
guess
it,
I don't
something
remember
like
that. All right, my fault. I figured it'd be Oregon and Utah would be the two that would be like, yo, get me the fuck out of here. But yeah, Oregon and Washington immediately stepped up to the plate and was just like, yay, can we come too? And I don't remember if it was officially shut down. I think it was officially shut down. They're not going to the Big Ten. I could be wrong on that. But I do know like there was a lot of talk between Pac-12 and Big 12 doing some sort of merge where it's like Arizona State, Colorado, Utah, Oregon, and Washington's coming to the Big 12 and this and that. I don't know if you guys saw this. It didn't like really break a lot of news besides an app notification, but that was confirmed that those talks fell apart. Those talks, like they're not doing it. So at this point, like what the hell do these schools over in the Pac-12 do? Because they're just riding a sinking ship at this point. Pac-12 is a sinking ship, flat out. I mean, I don't know any other way to put it. So what do they do? You know, like if they're not going to merge with the Big 12 in some capacity, like what do these other schools do? I mean, in USC and UCLA's thing, it is just a money grab. That's 100% what it comes down to. Like I said, if they look at it and they see Northwestern making like 60 mil and they're only making like 30 mil a year and they're supposed to be one of the what a lot of people would consider like a pillar in college football, like what are we doing? You know what I mean? So I do understand the move in that capacity, but it still doesn't sit right with me because like I'm a big guy with geographic stuff, man. Like I would like everyone to kind of be it's what I'm used to. You know what I mean? Creature of habit. Like I would definitely like them to play against schools on the West Coast, whatever. But I guess I can't talk a whole lot because we look at the ACC and we got Louisville, Kentucky in the ACC. But it is what it is, right? But no, I mean it was a wild move, man.
Yeah, but that's a totally different situation though, Alex.
It is, yeah.
Louisville was in the Big East, and the Big East was getting rid of everybody except for some of the private schools.
Yeah, they
that were up
folded.
there.
They folded for football.
UConn's not even the Big East anymore, so it was totally different because they had because Syracuse was once in the Big East.
Yep.
Now they're in the ACC. That was a totally different situation. They did that because the conference wanted to make a change as far as who was going to be in their conference and who was not. Geographically, it made sense for them to go to the ACC,
right?
Or if the SEC would have even taken them. So that made sense. What doesn't make sense is you're going to have a California school. California schools travel over 2,000 miles away to play a football game. It doesn't make any sense. And like I said, unless it's a postseason, atmospheric, one of those deals, that's fine. But a conference game, no, it's weird. It's bogus in my opinion.
I think the best move for the Big Ten is to get Oregon and Washington in there as well and do the pod system, where it's like those four would be playing pretty much a majority of the season, and there's only a few games where they're traveling out. To where the rest of the Big. I think that's probably the best with the hand that we're being dealt is what I'm saying. With the hand that we're dealt that this is happening, that's the best move. But other than that, it's just like, good luck to those student athletes. It's gonna be rough.
The new Division III,
yep.
Oregon University.
Yep.
I mean, this is what I see, right? Because I mean, you're right. Pac-12 is going to be pretty much disintegrated. ACC is going to be very, very, very well disintegrated. You're going to pretty much come down to three conferences, right? SEC, Big 10, Big 12. Yes, logistically and geographically, it doesn't make sense. And coming from a guy that grew up with college football and fell in love with the tradition of college football, and speaking back to your Rose Bowl thing, I mean 5, 6, 7 years ago during the BCS era, that was a game that millions and millions of people watched. It was basically, even though it wasn't a national championship game, even though it was comparison to the Super Bowl, everybody tuned in for the Rose Bowl. Everybody. That game was college football. And I spoke about this in season 1 of our podcast, that very soon these bowl games aren't going to mean shit. Yes, it sucks. Yes, I hate it. But with this new NIL deal now, it's college football is no longer about college. It's a business.
It's a business.
And business wise, and as far as you saying that you don't really know who's going to be the best conference and so on and so forth, I agree with that. But also on the flip side of that, I think because everybody's going to be pretty much playing everybody at least every year or every 2 years, or every other year, you're going to find out who is the better team a lot better. I think in the grand scheme of things, when it comes down to competition and knowing who's better, who deserves these playoff spots, especially if we want to see something like the Division II has, right? I mean, they have a 32 team playoff. if Division One football is gonna have something like that, this needs to happen. Yes, traditionally as a football fan, I hate it. Geographically, I hate it. But as far as competition of finding out who is the best team every year, so you don't have UCF saying that they're national championship even though their team didn't play anybody, that's not gonna happen anymore because they're gonna be forced to play teams that are up to their level. So in the grand scheme of things, it's gonna be better, but logistically and geographically, I agree. I hate it, but I mean, at the end of the day, when you have three conferences and you have everybody playing everybody, you're gonna find out who's the best team.
Well, see, and I'm glad you brought up the playoff thing, Shane, because I think in some ways, like you said, um, this could be good because this could actually push the playoff committee to extend the playoffs. Because, like I said, they have not budged off of 4. Like they tried to expand it to 8, nothing. 12, nothing. Which I thought it should. I thought it should have been 8 or 12 to begin with. So, but like I said, I mean that part of it could be good if we see an expansion of playoffs. But if we don't see this expansion, like I said, postseason is not going to mean anything anymore. I mean, like you said, and to some degree, Shane, the bowl games already don't mean anything because you already have these players that are opting out of these bowl games. The
Yeah, we've
NIL,
chatted about that.
however, could help a little bit. For the simple fact is if these sponsors that are paying these players could say, "Hey, if you play in the bowl game, we might give you a little bit of extra boost." And if they give them a contract, it may be in their contract saying that they may have to play in a bowl game. So in some ways, that part of it can be good. But the overall part of it, guys, I'm going to miss the traditions. I'm just a traditional guy. I'm just going to miss the traditions.
I feel that. Yeah, because this is a big change, and
And I'm the same way. As far as tradition, I hate it, right? But I'm
right.
also I'm when it comes to tradition or competition, unfortunately, I'm going to side with the competition. I much rather figure out who's the best team at the end of the year without any debate, rather than depicting on this tradition. Now, yes, as much as I'm going to miss those glory days, but at the end of the day, I think the NCAA is taking baby steps now that they're recognized as a business because of the money that these players are getting for in the NCAA. I think at the end of the day, when it is down to three conferences or four conferences and all these pods and everything, there will be no more bowl games. It'll either be playoff or you have an off season.
And it's
And I
it's
think so.
also going to hurt other sports. Even though, like I said, we haven't been confirmed with the other sports, but most likely it's going to be all sports because usually that's how they do it. Because especially when you're dealing with bigger schools like Oklahoma and Texas, they're going to be like, "Oh yeah, we'll keep you for basketball." But no, they're going to be gone completely, in my opinion. And that, like I said, I know it hadn't been confirmed, but I would go ahead and almost put money on that it'd be confirmed. But in some ways, I know this is a football show. I know this is a football show, but I've got to point this out. The NCAA tournament. How are you going to be able to predict conferences then? The Big Ten already took 8 to 10 teams last year. I believe it was 10 teams last year, or it was something like that. What are you going to do with postseason this year alone, Shane? Just in the College World Series with Texas and Oklahoma. If you put Texas and Oklahoma with the World Series because they were also in the College World Series, that's 6 SEC teams, including Oklahoma and Texas for the College World Series. So yeah, it changes a lot of perception. That's for sure.
I agree, but I think to go back to what Alex was saying, I think in order for for not only other sports, right, softball, baseball, basketball, swimming, track and field, for those teams not to suffer, those athletic programs not to suffer, and not only that, some of these smaller schools like your FAU, UAB, Charlotte, North Texas, Rice, UTSA, Marshall, Southern Miss, these teams, they need those conferences to keep those athletic programs going.
I
So,
agree.
Yeah,
so in order to do that, you would have to make football its own entity, right? You have to, because if not, those athletic programs are going to die, and we don't want to see that.
yeah. Because I
And
mean,
I think
everyone
this
can read the
could be a
writing on the wall.
path.
Go ahead.
I think this could be a path for some of these FCS schools to start coming into these big FBS programs.
Hey, look at James Madison. They're jumping up from FCS to Sun Belt. That's at least a start. You know, Charlotte did it here within the last few years. I don't remember how many years ago, 3 or 4 years now. Charlotte's been FBS play. Coastal Carolina as well. I mean, we're seeing it slowly but surely. There's still those pillars in the FCS that I would say are probably very content where they are. You know, like North Dakota State, they're like, hey, we're good. We're doing our thing. Montana and Montana State, they're doing their thing. They're fine. You know, but I do agree that we're going to start to see, you know, more FCS schools kind of make the jump. And Shane, one thing that I'm glad you mentioned is ACC, because they're in a position right now where it's like, as of right now, coming into this year, they're fine. But how long will they be fine? That's the big question, because there's been a lot of conversation that, you know, that fuck Florida State University could be getting out of there, Clemson could be getting out of there, Miami, UNC, and even Virginia. There's a lot of chatter around there. Now, I want to say that ACC signed like some multi-year deal for like their exclusive, you know, streaming rights or some bullshit like that. But I don't remember with who or if it was that massive. So ACC, in my opinion, is fine right now. But as these moves happen, as Oklahoma and Texas get to the SEC, as USC and UCLA get over to the Big Ten, and these two just completely dominate everything, that's when you're going to really start. That's when you're going to see these 5 teams that I just named, you know, and start to look around the room a little bit and be like, hey, SEC, how you doing? You know, you having a good time? Can you let us in? You know, I think that's going to be a possibility.
So rumor has it, North Carolina, FFS, I think Miami, and I'm trying to think of the other one that's off the top of my head.
Clemson and
Clemson,
Virginia.
Clemson. That's the one I was thinking of.
Okay.
Are looking to possibly go to the SEC.
Yep.
Which would leave Duke, Syracuse, and Maryland out of a conference. So you basically have a 3-team conference if all those schools that we just mentioned go, which is going to be even more weird.
Big Ten, by the way.
Because do what now?
Maryland's in Big Ten.
I don't know why I said Maryland. My bad. You're right. Maryland's in the Big Ten.
Yeah, they were in the ACC. They moved over a few years ago.
Tradition. That's what it was. Yes, you are right. And so, but which is even going to be a more interesting situation if Clemson moves, because word has it, Dabo Swinney is in line to succeed Nick Saban when Nick Saban decides to retire.
No doubt in my mind that's happening. No doubt in my mind. Yeah,
I think we called this in like early in season 2, like when last offseason ended, we were kind of like, if Nick Saban does retire, Dabo's got to be the front runner. He's already come out and said, I mean, isn't he from there or have family there? And he already said that Alabama.
He has a lot of ties to Alabama. A lot of ties to Alabama.
Yep. The only other rumor that I came across that I just wanted to shout out here is apparently SMU is rumored to have some discussions as well with ACC, Big 12, and Pac-12. That's the only other rumor that I've come across with all these team moves is SMU trying to make a move.
Dude, SMU go back to the death penalty. No one even.
Yeah,
no one
I agree.
Exists right now.
You know,
okay, come on, man. Come on, man. Really?
Look, listen. All right.
This is like, oh gosh, this is terrible.
Listen. Okay, I still half stand by my stance on what I said about Washington, but let me redo it. SMU, who gave you the audacity to even try to make that call? Like, straight up, bro. Like, who gave you the damn audacity to step up and be like, hey, you guys, how's it going?
That statement is worse. Okay, Alex, that statement from SMU is worse than when LeBron James left Cleveland to go to Miami and Dan Gilbert says, we're going to win a championship before he will.
That's fair.
Oh,
no,
SMU.
Dude, this is wild. I mean, we are in a very wild time right now with college football. So with all this talk on the conference stuff, something that we wanted to do here is put ourselves in a position. If we were the conference commissioners, what would we do to save the conference or make it better? So let's kick things off with Conference USA. We'll just do this as a group. What would you guys do? Because in my opinion, I would just go ahead and do this. I would look myself in the mirror and I'd be like, all right, I got this job. I'm just here to collect a paycheck. This conference is dead as shit. Let's go to work. I mean, like, what else are you going to do? You lost so many schools. You're a group of 5 as it is. I mean, your only hope is to maybe pull up some FCS. Nah, I mean, you're like the Big East in football. Just give it up. You're done. Just you're going to dissolve out. I mean, like, are we all on the same page about this?
So,
honestly,
go ahead, Shane.
Okay. So honestly, besides the big conferences, right? Besides Power 5 and even majority of the Power 5, like we kind of spoke about previously with the last kind of segment, honestly, if I was a Conference USA, Sun Belt, American Mountain West, MAC, and even the ACC or Pac-12, I am seeing how much money I can get as a commissioner, football-wise, to pawn these teams off to somebody else. Honestly, I mean, at this point, because especially like what we talked about with the whole NIL and everything, why not? I mean, why not go forward, go ahead and push this progress along, push up a bigger playoff, get people what they want, get the competition right, and just get these uh programs the money and get them moved out.
See, and of course, I agree with you, Shane. I wholeheartedly agree with you, Shane. But I could also see some dumbass you're looking at a big old list of schools and being like, Washita Baptist, who are they? Oh, and they probably pronounce it wrong. Wachita Baptist, never heard of them. Let's bring them on up. That'd be all right. How about Henderson State? Oh, we don't know that they're dying out. Let's just go ahead and bring them on up. So
Yeah,
I
very
see
well
something
could see
stupid like
that.
that happening.
I could very well see some shit like that, like the Sun Belt. Okay, let's go ahead and bring up Jackson State. Jacksonville State's over here, right? We'll put him in there too. We
You
got
guys are
Arkansas Tech,
talking like
right?
a.
We're gonna put Arkansas Tech in there, and it's just gonna be like these three massive conferences that'll be like basically like the main stuff. Even though it's all Division I, you're gonna have all these major teams over here, and then you're gonna have like Alabama, Blind State, or Blind School over here with everybody else.
You guys
And
are
they're-
talking
Hey,
almost like that time when ESPN got fleeced and they had like one of the top high schools in the country versus that other school. I don't remember what they were named. That wasn't even a real school. That's like the stuff you guys are talking right now.
Hey, that'd be
Wow.
perfect, man. That'd be perfect. Hey, I'd pay to see that game.
But no, Conference USA is dead. I mean, in my opinion, give it a few more years, this
They'll
conference
go
is dead
away.
as shit.
They're done. They're
Yeah,
going away.
it's
I don't
over.
see them surviving this.
Now Sun Belt though, I think Sun Belt, man, they made some moves. We already kind of chat about who they got and their beginning play this year. I think Sun Belt's going to stick around for a while in terms of this Group of 5 stuff. I really do.
So an interesting thing about the Sun Belt. Here's some inside information, something I had no idea about when this took place. So, for those of y'all who don't know, I have been I was a basketball official years ago. This year, I'm actually going to pick up football. I'm going to do high school football this year. Most likely going to stick around the junior high games or whatever it is. Anyway, so interesting thing about the Sun Belt. Did not know this until I talked to a guy the other day who has inside connections who is very good friends with the guy who schedules for the SEC. The guy who schedules for the SEC also schedules for the Sun Belt Conference, which I thought that's just a terrific story anyway, with it being combined. But there's reasons why the Sun Belt is able to grab. The Sun Belt Conference, guys, is a lot better than what people think it actually really is. It really does draw not the revenue that you expect with the SEC or anything like that, but it draws attention, and it's been drawn attention for many, many years with these schools. Because now the Sun Belt, every school that the Sun Belt has now is going to have football. UALR, who was in the Sun Belt, they're vaulted for the Ohio Valley Conference. They're irrelevant now. So the Sun Belt Conference, guys, is actually. Why not join the Sun Belt Conference if you're if the rest of Conference USA?
Come on in. Let's go.
The Sun Belt Conference. You know what? If we're gonna have one conference that's gonna suck, it's gonna be the Sun Belt Conference, and that's fine.
Honestly, going back to the ULR thing, I was sad that they left for Ohio State or Ohio Valley Conference or whatever, because I was looking forward to them possibly getting a football team.
Well, the word has it they were going to. The word has it they were going to get with Memorial, but talks fell through, and the pandemic did not help at all because they were dead set. This was the year we were going to start football, but now that they don't have football, the Sun Belt wanted to do away with just the basketball schools or schools without football, and that's why they're leaving.
Yeah, Sunbelt's in a good spot. Sunbelt's gonna survive and thrive, my friend. Now the American though, they made some moves. Like I said, they got some schools, but none of it's splash. You know what I mean? Like it's none of it's splash moves. I mean, UTSA is one to watch. UTSA played pretty well. The rest of them are, hey, you're a school. How's it going? The American is one that's gonna still stick around for a while, but like I still see them personally fizzling out as well. In fact, like out of the group of 5. Honestly, in my opinion, the only 2 that will fizzle out, like for sure, is, in my opinion, Conference USA and American. I feel like Sun Belt is doing very well at what they're doing, just existing in the space. I feel like Mountain West Conference is doing very well in their space, and I feel like they could even improve. We'll chat about that in a minute. And then the MAC. Bro, the MAC is perfectly fine. They do their thing. They exist in their own little ecosystem, and it works great. But American, if you guys were the commish, what would you do with the American? Would you do anything, or would you just kind of let it ride out and just admit your defeat?
I mean, unless you're going to be able to get out, and like I said, I like we talked earlier about the FCS schools. That's really going to be their only pull at this point.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to get Syracuse, you're not going to get Duke, you're not going to get any of these big time programs that you have. If the American is going to survive, they probably need to call up some of these FCS schools and be like, hey, what if we do this? What if we go ahead and add you guys to our conference? Now they would have to get some big time schools. They couldn't just get anybody. But here's an idea. Of course, North Dakota State. We know that they're good. Shining. Everything. We're there on the FCS. They're probably not going to leave the FCS, but that could be a phone call. The Montana schools, as we mentioned, but why not Youngstown State? Youngstown State's president is Jim Tressel. Jim Tressel was a big time guy. He would know how to get started in an FBS program. That could be something they could go towards. But if they're not going to be willing to grab, because that's basically going to be their only pull, because the rest of them are big time programs, and all the other smaller schools, you could possibly pull the rest from Conference USA. But to me, I would just disband it, say the heck with it. They all go independent for all I care. But I don't see the Americans surviving much longer.
No, and I agree 100%. Which is unfortunate because they haven't even been around that long. I know they're basically created off of what the Big East was, but really the American Conference themselves have not been around that long, which is really unfortunate. Now, jumping over from there, we have like the Mountain West. Mountain West is one that's going to be very interesting to watch in the coming years. And the reason why it's going to be interesting to watch is because of what's going to potentially happen with the Pac-12. Because if like the Pac-12, if stuff happens, obviously it's not going to happen right now. We've already seen kind of the talks kind of fizzle out. But like if you're Mountain West and you're paying attention to what's happening in the Pac-12 and you see some of these leftover schools that are just going to get unfortunately thrown to the wayside, Oregon State and Washington State being a couple prime examples, go Beefs. I would make some calls, to them and try to pull them in because where else are they going to go? Really, they probably won't even need to pull the calls. Honestly, those schools will probably make the call because, I mean, they know their place. They know they're not going to the Big 12. They know they're not going to the Big 10. Like, what's their next step after Pac-12 falls apart? Go to the Mountain West, make some moves, and Mountain West gets a lot more power with those schools in there. At least that's my opinion. So if I was like the Mountain West commish, I would just kind of bide my time. I'm existing perfectly fine. I would be a little afraid about losing some schools because, like, the Pac-12 could potentially make moves for, like, let's say Fresno State, San Diego State, Boise State. Those are possible moves they could make. But other than that, I would just kind of bide my time a little bit, give it, as I don't think the Pac-12 is going to last. I think the days are numbered for them, which is unfortunate because of the tradition. But when that happens, you're going to get some schools thrown to the wayside. Like I said, Oregon State, Washington State being the first two that popped to mind.
I think at the end of the day, whichever one does fall apart, whether it's the Pac-12 or the Mountain West, whichever one survives is pretty much going to be better off because they're going to get the scraps, right?
Yeah.
So whoever can't get into the Big 10, the Big 12, or the SEC, the Mountain West and possibly even the MAC, depending on some things, could just pick up those scraps and be that next conference that survives. So you could still potentially see a Power 5 or 4 conferences, depending on, I mean, we've already kind of discussed Sun Belt thriving, Conference USA and American pretty much dying. So if the Mountain West and MAC kind of survive, they can pretty much run everything else and get pick up those scraps.
And the interesting thing about that as well, if the MAC wants to try to make a move for anyone, cool, good on them. But they don't even need to. I'm telling you, the MAC, out of all the group of 5, in my opinion, the MAC is the number one that is the best at living in their own ecosystem. You know what I mean? Even over the Sun Belt. Like, I genuinely believe that. The MAC is so good at just surviving and doing their thing and making money with who they've got. They do so well at it. As Tyler always says, the MACtion, the MAC attack, whatever. That's his thing. So I feel like the MAC is the prime example of, hey, just sit back, have a good time, because you're in good shape. At least in my opinion. That's how I view it.
And also, depending on which one falls apart, if the MAC does survive, and you see the Mountain West or Pac-12 survive, which one? Because the real thing, it really comes down to those two, right? Whoever is able to get the scraps and or pull from that other conference, that's going to be the one to survive. So just say we do have an instance where there's 5, but they want to break down to 4 conferences. Why not merge, whether it's the Mountain West with the MAC or the MAC with the Pac-12, and just merge those 2 conferences and make it even better?
I think Pac-12 and Mountain West would be the play because I do give it a few more years, and the conversations that we just saw get confirmed here recently, thanks to the ESPN app, random, that confirmed that those talks with Big 12 and Pac-12 are dead. Give it a year or two, and those talks will pick back up. I mean, it's just dead for now because the Pac-12, I think they even realize they're in a state where like they're not going to be able to survive. Oregon and Washington's on there going to be working their way out. We see all these other schools that are trying to work their way out as well. They know the writings on the wall. They can't. They're a Power 5 conference in name. They know that even pull if they manage to pull up some like top tier FCS schools from over there, like UC Davis, for example, because they're one of the better FCS schools over there on the West Coast. They were ranked like number 4, number 3 almost all season last year. Like they know that, oh, that's not going to bring the revenue. I mean, we're a Power 5 conference in name. Like it's not going to do it. So they know they're dead. Give it a few more years. Those talks will pick back up. So Mountain West, I think, is in a really good spot. Just bide your time. You might lose some schools for now. Like if Pac-12 tries to make one last breath, one last dying breath, whatever, and try to get like San Diego State, Fresno State, and like Boise State being 3 that I would think would be toyed with. But I mean, just give it time. I mean, because there are a lot of schools in that Pac-12 that I think maybe not this year, but here in coming years will be hot commodities. Obviously, Oregon and Washington and Utah being some right off the bat. But then even they may not be very good at football right now, but you got to look at Stanford and Cal. I mean, they're going to be big names because of various other things that those programs and those schools do well at. So just give it time. Give it time. You know what I mean? And we'll see the end of that as well. With Pac-12, I mean, would you guys do anything? If I was commish, I told you the 3 schools that I would hit up. And if I had my last dying breath here, let's hit up Boise State, Fresno State, and St. Would you guys do anything different, or just accept your defeat, look in the mirror, and just be like, I'm taking a paycheck?
I'm just going to be honest. I don't think that's going to be enough.
I don't think it is either.
Because you're talking about 2 Los Angeles schools.
Yep.
Go just leaving, right off the top. That's USC by itself is a lot of revenue. UCLA, we know the history and tradition with UCLA. That's just a lot of revenue in general. I think you would have to merge with the Mountain West just to even come close to surviving. And it's like I said, when you lose 2 schools like USC and UCLA, even though both schools really have not done well in any particular sport as of late, I don't see, without having that great football revenue, I think your best bet is to merge with the Mountain West rather than trying to take schools away from the Mountain West. And that's just my opinion. And then, because here's the thing, the Mountain West Conference, if I'm not mistaken, I don't think any of those schools have been touched yet as far as moving conferences or anything like that.
Well, BYU, that's it.
Well, BYU, yeah, BYU was it. But even then, and BYU is not the biggest program in the entire conference, in my opinion. Even though they have been very good as of late, but they're not the biggest, in my opinion. Boise State, to me, is still the cream of the crop of that conference. But if you think about it, Boise State was the
Ricky, we're losing you.
It's still good.
Shane, your face. Ricky, we're losing you, man.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you, but you are froze.
But I'm what?
You're froze. It's fine.
I am froze. Oh, man.
You're back.
That is amazing.
You're back. You're back. All
right, good. So anyway, sorry about that.
Terrible show. Let's get it.
Exactly. But that's just me. I would merge with the Mountain West. I wouldn't try to take teams away. It would be pointless right now.
Yeah.
If you're the Mountain West, if you're any of these teams in the Mountain West, you have one school that's left you so far. Why would you want to risk, disbanding the conference? You got something good going.
I think it really just depends on what you want, right? Do you want your conference to survive? If so, then you're going to have to either merge or pretty much talk to the Mountain West about getting some teams, um, or maybe merging with the MAC or something along those lines. If you're okay with just getting money and then closing the doors down on it, then just dispersing your teams out to those conferences and just reeking in the revenue from it.
Right. Let's do these two back to back real quick. ACC and Big 12. What would you guys do in those situations? I want to save the big two for last. So yeah, ACC and Big 12. You know what? Just to throw a wrench in everyone and everything, like, you know, just to really piss people off. If I was ACC, hey Hawaii, you want to come over and join our conference? Like, let's really piss some people off. Obviously, no, not really. But yeah, ACC and Big 12. I mean, you know, well, I mean, what would you guys do different? I know for ACC, you know, they're not like a big heavy hitter or anything, but you know, they haven't done anything since they went to this conference anyway. But I would probably hit up West Virginia and be like, hey man, why don't you come back over here? You know, hang out with us, actually have some rivalries again. You don't have any rivalries anymore. You've been irrelevant. You know, so it's not like a big splash move, but I'd probably hit that up. I mean, what about you guys? Big 12 especially. There's a lot of potential there. I mean, you're already getting 4 schools. Do you just kind of ride that out? Or do you stay aggressive?
Think it depends, right? If the SEC is able to pull Florida State, Clemson, Miami, North Carolina, Virginia, all of those teams, or even some of those teams, especially those big three, Florida State, Clemson, and Miami, if the SEC are able to pull those away from me, I'm in panic mode at that point.
True.
Because my top 3 teams that pretty much produced all of my revenue is gone.
Yep.
So then it's debating the same thing with the Pac-12, right? Do I just go ahead and shut the doors and collect revenue, or do I take the risk and pull in a Hawaii or somebody from the FCS level up and seeing what I can do with it? So
Well, regardless of the situation, the Big 12's conference is not. It's not going to be a power conference as it is.
No.
I think at this point, I think you could take leftovers. Like, let's just say that, you know, let's just say Clemson. Let's just say it's just Clemson, Florida State, Miami, and of course North Carolina could be one of them. You still have some good schools. You still, if Virginia Tech decide not to go, if they decide to stick with the ACC, or they can merge with the Big 12, they could go along with West Virginia. I mean, it just something's gonna have to give at this point. But I think it just depends on what moves these other schools are willing to make, because it's like we said earlier. The rumor has it is that North Carolina, Florida State, Clemson, and Miami are gonna shift to the SEC. So let's just see what happens. I mean, but because like I said, what's going to be these schools' next move? Like, what's going to be their next move? Could they stay with their own conference? Perhaps, but as far as football revenue wise goes, not as much. It would probably be smarter to join another conference. The Big 12 isn't the greatest conference to me, besides the Pac-12. Right now, it's the weakest of the Power Five. So I mean, you're not going to make it any stronger. But yeah, I just don't. Yeah, that's just me.
I mean, I think right now it's because I think it's clearly the SEC and then the Big Ten, and I think right now it's everybody else. Now, is the Big 12 as weak as the Pac-12 and ACC? No, I don't think so. Because in my opinion, I can name off 4 or 5 teams that contend every single year for that conference's championship and has a discussion to get put into a New Year's Six, if not the championship game, depending on things. When ACC, they have what, 2 schools, maybe. Pac-12 hasn't had a team in discussion in how long? So, I mean, I think right now it's pretty much SEC Big 12, I mean, SEC Big 10, Big 12, and then everybody fucking else is just debating for
How
that next
many
spot.
how many Big 12 schools have been in the college football playoff?
I mean, not very many. I mean, you've got Oklahoma, what, twice?
One. One. That's it. None of them have been in the pack. None of them have been in the.
ACC's got one.
But
ACC's only had one team. Pac-12's has only had one team. So I mean, there's not really much difference there. So you have to
but
go to the next kind of breakdown, which is going to be how many teams are contending each and every year. And I think that's, in my opinion, the Big 12 has the up on the ACC and Pac-12.
and to give some defense to that, while I agree 100%, Oklahoma's been the Big 12. I mean, that no shit they have. Yo, Baylor and Oklahoma State, man, they haven't been bad teams for these past few years. Like, especially
No.
last year, they balled out last year, so they're going to be the ones to carry that torch going forward for the for the Big 12 once Oklahoma and Texas ends up leaving. So I mean that is something to watch. There is see how much Baylor can continue to capitalize, because man, I love that guy that got down in Baylor, Dave Arnada, is that his name? I believe, as the head coach. I may have mispronounced his last name, but I think
Nada or something like that.
yeah, I think at least Baylor. I know, man. Oklahoma State still got, I'm a man. I'm 40. They still got him rocking over there, and he's still just doing his thing. But like, give it a little bit more time, man. Especially in Baylor's case with this new coach in there. I think this is his maybe second or third year at Baylor. I could be wrong. I think they're gonna that is something to watch. Just to give now the rest of the Big 12, they stink. Now, granted, they're getting some teams. Well, at least, UCF and Cincinnati and BYU has been kind of notable. Houston had hey, we got ranked 19th. They had that level of nobility. But, I think Big 12 could get some growth going in the next few years.
Big 12, like I said, the Big 12 is looking for a little bit more growth because these smaller schools are, like I said, they're actually coming in.
Yeah.
So the ACC is the ones that really they're the ones that really have to worry about it.
Yeah.
And for the record, ACC's had 2 teams in the football playoff. Florida State was one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, now finishing it up, SEC and Big Ten. Do you guys stay aggressive as shit, or are you satisfied with where you're at?
Satisfied, but I'm not aggressively going out and getting these teams, because these teams are going to contact me. Fair. I mean, if I'm the Big Ten and SEC, these teams are contacting me. My job at that point would just be, how much money can I get?
Yeah,
pretty much.
I would 100% agree with Shane on that one. You let them call you. I 100% agree, because there is one school that is out there that sounds like it's been left out to dry that I would take in a heartbeat at any conference, and that's Duke University. I know they don't drive much revenue in football, but they do draw revenue in other sports. Fair. So I mean, if I'm any of these conferences, I would, yeah. But even then, I would let them call me before I call them.
Yeah, I agree, and it's going to be interesting to see if that is the approach they take, where if they both just you can call me, or if they stay aggressive, because right now it's Big Ten versus SEC, so that's where it's going to be interesting to see how much they're going to continue to stay aggressive. Where it's because they are fully competing with each other. Because if let's say SEC makes the move, and then let's say they get a Clemson, FFSU, or a Miami or whatever, just to give examples. That's when you could see maybe Big Ten be like, hey, Oregon, sure, why not? Oregon, Washington, let's go. We'll make pods. Let's do it. And that's where who's gonna make the move first? Who's gonna accept who first? You know what I mean? Because that's what's going to be interesting to watch. And what's also going to be interesting to watch about it is I wouldn't be surprised if it's going to be the Big Ten being more aggressive, because you have to look around the room and you have to look at the SEC and look at their conference as a whole, and you look at the Big Ten conference as a whole. We know who's the top. We know, the mediocre teams for the Big Ten, if we just consider Big Ten as its own thing, its own ecosystem, and name off all the mediocre teams, man, those mediocre teams don't compare to the damn mediocre teams in the SEC. They just don't. All right. Northwestern, Purdue, couple examples, Rutgers, Maryland, they don't compare to the mediocre teams. Minnesota, thank you. Well, they had 1 year or 2 years of decency, and now they're crap again, but different point. Illinois as well, they always stink. Sad that Lovie Smith couldn't bring them around, but different story. And also, I just realized this. We have failed to mention one very, very important name in this whole conversation, and that's I feel like Big Ten, ACC, those being the two that are kind of in the waiting game for this, is what is Notre Dame going to do? Are they going to stay independent, or are they going to end up making a move finally? That's something that's still, I feel like, probably being watched. And I feel like that move alone is potentially why the Big Ten just haven't automatically accepted, Oregon and Washington State, is what is Notre Dame going to do in football? Stay independent or what?
So Big Ten was actually my assignment. So I actually wrote this down. So we mentioned Minnesota, we mentioned Northwestern, we mentioned Rutgers. You could take those 3 schools and take them out of the Big Ten, kick them out of the Big Ten, and make them go somewhere else, which I know they have contracts and everything.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, pay them off and go. Add Duke, add Syracuse, and add Notre Dame to the Big Ten, and you're going to be even stronger than what you were just by even with football. You're going to be stronger than what you were with those three teams than what you would by getting rid of those schools I just mentioned.
That's true. That is fair. Because like the schools that you mentioned, man, they just don't do anything. Congratulations, Purdue. You got like 2 upsets last year, but other than that, you stink. Like
they can go to the MAC. They can go to the MAC.
Yo, bro, they would be so good in the MAC. They would. They would be so good in the MAC attack, man. I'm here for that. Purdue to the MAC. Let's get it. Dude, they would be perfect in there. I'm here for that. But no, I feel like when it comes to those two, we're going to see Big Ten potentially be the one to be more aggressive because they know they're number 2. They know they're not number 1. While they have while their top schools, could compete with the top schools in the SEC. But the problem is, like I said, the mediocre talent in SEC blows the door off, of the mediocre talent in the Big Ten. And that's what it comes down to. Because you look at the SEC, like even coming into this year, you got a lot of teams that are going to be making some moves. You know what I mean? We have obviously, Alabama and Georgia being the givens. You have South Carolina that could potentially really make a move. You have Kentucky that looked pretty solid last year. You have Arkansas that's going to be poised for a pretty solid year. And then there's other schools that could be in the mix there with both the Mississippis, Texas A&M, even though I think they're very horribly overrated, but I still feel the need to mention them. Tennessee could honestly make some splash this year. Then you look at the Big Ten, it's like, all right, you got Penn State that's going to be really good for a while, then fizzle out, lose one game, and there goes their season. You got Ohio State that's probably going to go undefeated besides maybe one game. Same thing with Michigan State. Michigan's going to be Michigan. Iowa's going to be solid for a little bit and then get the doors blown off of them, and then that's pretty much it. That's your Big Ten. Congratulations. Nebraska's been a non-factor since they've, went to the Big. They got all this power in the Big 12. They go to the Big 10. They've been a non-factor since. Wisconsin's been a non-factor for years. So the Big 10 is going to be the one to be more aggressive and potentially, I think they're waiting on Notre Dame right now, figure out what Notre Dame's going to do before they make the move for Oregon and Washington. But no, what you said is a good play too. Maybe get Syracuse in there. Duke, Notre Dame. That's big moves. That's big moves.
Now, what if a move comes in like Notre Dame comes in? They somehow release those 3 teams to different conferences, and then Oregon and Washington.
I still think.
I think as far as football wise go, I think pulling in Oregon and Washington is definitely gonna be a lot better move than pulling in Duke and Syracuse football wise.
Yeah.
Oh, agreed. Yeah, definitely agreed.
Yeah. No, I mean, we're going to continue to see these moves over the next couple of years. I mean, just with everything that's already happened and the NIL being a massive factor. So, I'm telling you guys, we are in the off season of an NCAA video game dynasty right now. We are just having fun with the conference realignment, which I love doing myself, but I love doing it strictly on geography. The last time I was playing NCAA, I rearranged the entire NCAA by where they are, and I got to say that was fascinating to watch. I know it'd never work in real life, but it was so fascinating to watch all these random schools all of a sudden oh, look at that, look at who's number 6 in the nation, shout out to them. It was fascinating. It was fun to watch. But boys, if with all that said, I feel like we can go ahead and probably look to wrap up the show, unless you guys have something else that you want to shout out with all the conference stuff. Anything else on your mind?
I'm good, man. I think that's good enough for the first week.
Okay, bet. All right, well, I'm going to hit the music right now. So now I hit the music. All right, we're good. Hit the music, boys. Last thoughts, and I'll close this out.
Tyler, you suck.
Wow.
I'm just kidding, Tyler.
Tyler, I hope we see you back at some capacity at some point. Love you, man. As far as season goes, man, I'm excited. I'm ready. I'm ready to see what these quarterbacks do. I'm ready to see what these teams do. Ready to be depicting on week to week and things like that as far as we go, as far as commentating on the football year. Excited to have Ricky along with us for the drive and ready to get going.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here, Shane. I'm glad to be on here with you guys. And like I said, Shane, we've known each other a while now, and I think this is going to be a good thing. Shout out to Tyler, though. Good luck on your next journey, whatever that is. Even though I am very upset that you were kind of my agent to get me on here, and now you're gone. But that's okay. That's okay. Man.
He's the whole reason why I met Alex and got on the show. So, you know.
But I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward to working with you, Shane, and with you, Alex. I think we're gonna kick this season off right. It's gonna be a great year, y'all. Great year. I am looking forward to it.
I'm beyond excited for this team. I'm beyond excited for this show. Here in 2 weeks, kicking off with live shows right here at youtube.com/Sparky3. Every Tuesday about 5-ish. I'm just going to stick with the ish. The ish is a safe bet. 5-ish be going live every Tuesday. Super excited for it. If you made it all the way to the end, we cannot appreciate you enough. Thank you. Shout out to Tyler, of course. Appreciate everything that you've done for this show. You're a legend. Make sure to go check out our website, sparky3.com. You can sign up for free or sign up $5 a month. Support us fair. We'd appreciate that. Join the Discord. If you want to be part of these live shows, come in and chat with us. Propose a question. Propose a talking point. Give your thoughts on how terrible your team did or how great your team did. Definitely join the Discord. Communicate with us in that capacity. Check out Rogue Energy. Referral link down below. Promo code Sparky3 or promo code RAZOR E3 for 10% off. As well as check out our other sponsors like Swift Grips. Get the best grips in the game. Protect your grips. Protect those sticks, man. Or get the grips. Protect your sticks. That's the one that I'm trying to go with. I'm making it like a sex joke. Promo code GameStatic for 10% off that. As well as you use the referral link down below for Red Dragon. Pick up a new keyboard, mouse, whatever. Promo code GameStatic for that as well. With all that said, boys, you got to do it with me. I know we're on Discord, but we got to do it together. We got to do it together, okay? With all that said, thank you so much for listening to a terrible football show.
Football show.
Close enough. See you guys.